The Laughing Court. The grand court of the Zarnathi Empire echoed with laughter, cold, metallic, and utterly without pity. General Kenth, towering and draped in crimson scales, sneered down at the solitary human standing in the center of the tribunal. "Is this what Earth sends to challenge us?" A single fleshling wrapped in primitive armor. The court erupted again. Even the lowliest scribes chuckled, their bioluminescent tendrils flickering mockery across the walls. Around the circular chamber floated holograms of past conquests, burning cities, shattered warships, and the infamous kneeling of Alpha Centauri. Now, a new memory was being forged. Sergeant Riley Knox said nothing. Her uniform, once crisp, was scorched and torn. Plasma burns traced across the outer plating of her tactical vest, and dried blood, her own and others, streaked her left sleeve. She stood unarmed. The Empire had made sure of that. Her hands were bound, but her spine remained straight. "You came alone," sneered Kenth. "You refused surrender. And now, you stand before the throne of galactic supremacy expecting mercy." Riley looked up. Her eyes, the kind of steel gray only Earth soldiers seemed to grow, locked with the general's. "I didn't come for mercy," she said flatly. "I came to measure the enemy." Kentha's claws tapped rhythmically on the armrest. "Measure us. You are captured. Your battalion is dust. Your planet, negotiating terms of humble submission. You, human, are the last echo of defiance. And it ends now." She didn't flinch when the guards raised their plasma rifles. She'd already accepted death once, a month ago, when the 89th Orbital Shock Division was encircled near the Dyson perimeter. Earth had sent them to delay the Empire's advance. The command knew it was suicide. It had been. Except she'd survived. And more importantly, she'd learned. "You think our war is about numbers," Riley said, taking a step forward despite the weapons aimed at her heart. "You think it's about fleets, planets, and declarations." The court quieted. Kenth tilted his head. "You made one mistake," she continued. "You assumed humanity fights like you. Predictably. With protocol." She smiled for the first time. But Earth's strength was never in following the rules. It took them a full cycle to process the escape. The explosion that tore through the Northeast Tower had been low-tech, chemical, not plasma. The humans had always preferred obsolete means. Old-fashioned C4. Just enough to trigger confusion, not collapse the structure. Riley had memorized every angle of the guards' rotations, every entry port, every energy conduit vulnerable to sabotage. The Empire prided itself on sophistication but forgot how effective brute simplicity could be. She stole a skimmer and vanished into the wastelands of Muroc 9. The planet was one of many occupied worlds, stripped of native species and converted into a resource refinery. Its surface was gray, dead, and perpetually under surveillance, except in the deep sectors where the Empire's interest waned. That's where she headed. And where it waited. The relic. She'd heard whispers about it during her imprisonment. A forgotten human relic brought to Muroc 9 years ago, before Earth had been fully evaluated by the Empire. It was a curiosity, kept in a museum vault, unpowered, dismissed as a toy from a lesser species. But it wasn't a toy. It was one of the last M1 Abrams tanks ever built before Earth's focus shifted to orbital and energy warfare. Heavy, loud, and devastating. And Riley knew how to drive it. She reached the vault just before dawn. The place was guarded by a skeleton crew, 3 drones, 2 board sentries, and an AI that had already flagged her approach but didn't expect an ancient combustion engine to crash through the eastern wall. She ignited the beast with a prayer and a scream. The engine roared, an unholy thunder not heard in centuries. The M1 Abrams was alive. She fed it depleted uranium shells and memories of fallen comrades. She fed it her rage. Then, with dust rising and hate in her heart, Sergeant Riley Knox drove back toward the Capitol. She wasn't hiding anymore. She was bringing the fight back. The Empire's silence. The first shells landed before the Capitol's outer gates registered a threat. They weren't sleek plasma lances or precision orbital strikes. No, these were old-school, solid, fast, and monstrous. The first round punched through a gravity turret like it was papier-mâché. The second split a tower's fusion core. Fire roared skyward. The sky burned orange. The defenders scrambled. Alert klaxons wailed as hovercraft and anti-armor drones spun up. But their systems were too optimized for modern warfare. They didn't know what to make of a relic that roared like a beast and shrugged off particle bursts like rain. From behind reinforced plating, Sergeant Riley Knox drove straight through the outer wall of the Imperial Citadel. The M1 Abrams, blackened, battered, and furious, carved a path of fire and steel into the heart of the Galactic Empire. Inside the control chamber, A.R. Kemph watched in disbelief. "This is impossible," he growled, voice shaking with something unfamiliar, fear. "She was a prisoner," hissed an adjutant. "She had no army, no command." "Correct," A.R. Kemph whispered. "Only resolve." He slammed his fist into the console, shattering it. "Bring her down." Across the Capitol, the Empire's war machines mobilized. Sleek striders, sonic displacers, swarms of tracker drones. But Riley had learned from watching them for months. She knew how they thought, how they hunted. And she knew one other thing. The Abrams wasn't fast. It didn't have to be. It was a fortress on treads. Every shot she fired collapsed the Empire's image of superiority. Every turn of the treads across polished Imperial stone screamed one message. "You should not have laughed." They finally cornered her in the plaza outside the high throne itself. Dozens of grav tanks hovered above. Drones circled like vultures. Shield barriers shimmered into place. A.R. Kemph himself stepped out onto the balcony above, his ornate armor glinting in the fires below. He stared down at the smoking, still rumbling M1 Abrams. "You came alone again," he spat. "No reinforcements. No plan." Inside the tank, Riley adjusted the last shell in the feed and spoke over the open comm. "No plan," she said, voice calm. "You still think this is about winning a battle." She raised the turret. "It's not. It's about sending a message." The final shell exploded against the base of the throne spire, tearing through it with all the weight of human defiance. Stone and steel collapsed in a tidal wave of fire. A.R. Kemp's scream was lost in the thunder. And then, for the first time in decades, the Empire was silent. Later, when Earth forces finally broke through the perimeter and entered orbit, they found her. She'd stepped out of the wreckage before the spire fell. She sat in the crater, rifle across her lap, eyes alert. A medic asked how she'd survived. Riley simply nodded to the tank behind her, still smoldering, still casting a shadow over the ruins of the Empire's pride. "Didn't come here to win," she said. "Came to remind them." "Remind them of what?" She stood. "That humans don't back down. That when you push us to extinction, we answer with legacy." She glanced at the wrecked M1 Abrams, the old war beast that had roared through the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Sometimes, our past is deadlier than your future.